Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Coaching Conversations. I'm here with Jillian Simkis and Carol Yarmartino, and today we're talking about what does it look like for leaders and for managers as we start to move back to working in our office spaces again, or into whatever the new normal is going to be for our particular industries. And in discussing this with different clients and people that we know, friends and family, we really identified 4 key things that leaders need to be thinking about right now in this time as they move forward with this transition. And we came up with a cool graphic we want to share with you today. And we titled it Epic Leadership, which represents each of the 4 things. And I looked up the word epic because I wanted to truly understand its definition. And according to Webster's, it has 2 definitions. The first is a noun, which means a long poem or story narrating the deeds of a heroic or legendary figure, which I think all great leaders would want to aspire towards. And the second, an adjective, is a heroic or grand in scale or character. So being heroic or grand in scale or character, which I also thought was a great definition of a wonderful leader. So let's go through what each of these 4 buckets are, and then we'll dig in a little bit deeper. The first, or E, is empathy. So at the primary space that we're at right now, leaders and managers need to be human. They need to be exhibiting their empathy. They're needing to be relating to what people are experiencing, which can be wide and varied depending on their individual circumstances. The second is the path, and that's providing a very clear vision about what's going to happen going forward. What are we still working towards? Are our goals the same? Are we working towards the same vision we were before? Or have we pivoted? Are we doing something different? And it's okay if that path changes along the way, but at each phase to be as clear and articulate and decisive about it as you can be is important. The third is the impact. So what does all of this mean to me as an individual working for you? I want to know what it means. What does it mean for my team? What does it mean for us as a company? What does it mean for the industry that we're in? How much information can you give me about what the impact is and what I can expect going forward? And the final thing, which is communicate, of course, this is always an essential leadership quality. But right now, the most important thing around communication is that it's timely. So it's happening as things are happening. There's sort of a constant stream of communication, that it is truthful, that it is transparent. So you're sharing as much as you possibly can. And if you can't share something, to be honest about that. And most importantly, that it's on a schedule. People know when to expect to hear from you. So if you're going to have a weekly check-in, a twice-a-week check-in, a daily check-in, I know some folks are doing, all of these things sort of lead to proper communication in this particular time. So that's being epic, an epic leader. What do you think, Jillian?
I love it. I think this is really on point. And I think about as we return to work, we've already had discussions with some of our clients about all of these areas, all of these topic areas. And I know we've talked about as a team before empathy, and empathy is really that definition of feeling with people and, trying to understand what are people feeling at this moment. And I know that people are feeling many different emotions, and how do we harness those, and how do we really listen to what's going on? The path forward, I think that's ideal. And we think about, what do leaders need to do? What policies need to change? What flexibility needs to put in place? What safety standards are we talking about? And then, the impact of that on everyone. And the communication always has to be transparent, right? We need to know that our leaders are honest, that they're forward-looking, that we trust them. And I think that we've heard ourselves from leaders in our areas that is so important and so critical. So I think this is great. I think it's really on point.
I'd also jump in and say around the path, this providing a clear vision is very important and critical right now. We actually have 3 different client companies that are now working on COVID-19 programs, which we're thrilled that they're working on. But in the focus on that means that something else has to give. And I think it's really important that a leader thinks about, what is the work we need to redirect? What is the work that we need to accelerate? Is there work that we need to pivot on or move into a different direction? Is there essential work that must continue no matter what? And what are we exiting from? And sometimes it's related to high-level program like COVID for those in the life science and biotech fields, but it could be something entirely different for a healthcare provider or a financial services. Based on what's going on right now, having the ability as a leader to look and say, I got to make some decisions, or with my board of directors or with my colleagues, we need to think about what is the path forward, and making sure, as Jillian mentioned, communicating that, and then be able to look to each of your employees and say, what is the impact for them? How will this change their day-to-day work? What will they stop doing? How do they prioritize? One of the first sessions we talked about is the prioritization. That's critical. The other thing to think about is we are at a point in time right now. What is that going to be 3 months from now, or the following quarter, or year end? All of these things are going to be fluid and need to change. And we need to be mindful of that. So that path is really important to give that thought to. And then the impact is, how do you connect your employees to the company, to their work, and to what the future looks like?
Yeah, excellent. I love those points. And I think the communication, I think communication, as I said, is always a really important leadership and management quality, maybe the most important, honestly. Our ability to make sure that people know where they're going, why they're going there, and how they're doing in getting there are all things that need to happen. But right now, there's that extra piece of what you just described, Carol, to make sure that people can thread it through so that they understand why something is happening. Because sometimes when they're impacted or they're feeling a change and they're feeling uncomfortable with that, when they don't have all the pieces of information, it makes it that much more difficult. So being a strong leader right now needs to be extra careful about what they're communicating, how they're communicating it, and who they're communicating to, and asking for help and support in that way is critical.
Yeah, and I would also jump in to say, to that point, Louisa, it's the context. So right now, I can't walk down the hall to you and say, hey, I wanted to follow up on that, or, oh, you're seeing you reminds me of something. It needs to be more deliberate, and whether it's through email or FaceTime or Zoom or picking up the phone, it needs to be more deliberate than it has been in the past. And maybe this is the way that it's going to be going forward. Yeah. But just sending an email is not going to be enough. Sometimes people do have to have that context or that background to better understand, why was it that that decision was made, or what were they thinking in terms of making that decision? So you bring up a really good point, and I think, adding on to that context is so much more critical. And then, of course, we add in the emotion piece to that, whether we're feeling nervous or uncertain or frustrated or angry, making sure that that context is brought in. And that's, again, where that empathy is so critical and so important to make sure that gets magnified.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for those thoughts today. I am very excited for our clients to let us know about their epic leadership journey, and for us to see all the successes you have going forward. There will be a few resources of things that are coming out currently following along at the end of this video, so be sure to check those out, and we look forward to seeing you all soon.